What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. Is not from Symphony of the Night. And that's just the first weird story about this game. Originally, Konami wasn't even making Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation. They were making it for the Sega 32X. And comment down below if you're old enough to remember what that is. It was called the Bloodletting, but eventually Konami abandoned the 32X, and they already had a working demo of the game, so they just retooled it to work on the PlayStation. And I don't even think Konami had any faith in this game. I mean, that's the only conclusion I can come to, considering it had barely any marketing, and it was released right before Final Fantasy VII. Seems like Konami wanted to release this one unnoticed, but people really noticed. But we'll get back to that. In Symphony of the Night, you play Alucard, Dracula's half-human son who goes to put an end to the big bad vamp once and for all. But you actually start the game by playing Richter, who's another vampire hunter who's out to kill Dracula. Yeah, Symphony of the Night does the whole let you start the game as some super powered, awesome whatever, and then takes all your cool powers away and then makes you have to re-earn them, which I've seen done really well and really badly. The thing is, if you're going to start your game by letting players play some super powerful character, and by the end of the game, they should feel like that super powerful character. I've seen too many games where you start out really powerful, then get depowered, but you never get back to that level you were in the beginning. So the game starts, you meet Dracula, and he says the line. The most iconic line from the game. The line that's gotten repeated 10,000 times. And it's not originally from Symphony of the Night. When Symphony of the Night was originally released in Japan, it didn't have that line in it. It wasn't until the game got ported to America that the localizer Jeremy Blaustein added that line in. And he got it from a book, Anti-Memoirs, by French novelist André Malraux. Blaustein wasn't even there when the lines were being recorded. The entire recording sessions were a mess. According to the actors, all the lines were recorded in a single weekend. They didn't even have a proper recording studio. But anyway, the beginning of the game, you play as Alucard, and you get all your cool toys taken away by death. You then have to explore Dracula's castle, getting all your stuff back, so you can face the big man himself. And being a Castlevania game, you are exploring a big open map that you need certain abilities to access different parts of. And one of the problems I found with a lot of open world, open map kind of games like this is that the difficulty sort of spikes. There's no way for the devs to know where the player's going to be when, except for those little checkpoints that get cut off. And because the game is designed like that, there is a lot of backtracking, which means the game just keeps fluctuating between easy and hard depending on which enemies you're facing. And one of the reasons so many of the enemies aren't that hard is because I discovered the ultimate tactic to taking them down: ducking and then spamming the attack button. Seriously, you would be surprised how many enemies that maneuver takes care of. And frankly, the hardest enemy in the game is the freaking Medusa heads. I don't know if I'm just stupid, but trying to figure out the right timing to kill these things was impossible. I genuinely think they're one of the only enemies I actually died to. And then later on, they can petrify you. And they can like stun lock petrify you. So you get petrified right after you break free of the petrify. Add in a bunch of enemies flying around at the same time, and they are a nightmare. They felt like the only really hard part of this game. I wouldn't call any part of this game hard. Even a few bosses gave me trouble, but most of them really didn't. But I do love the map. It gets filled out as you go, and later on you can buy a full map so you can see where the areas you haven't been to yet are. The map is pretty big, and you get little teleporters that help you move around from place to place, but I wish you could hop into a teleporter and then pick where you wanted to go. You just hop in one, and then you sort of go to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. But sometimes to get to the place that you want to get, you have to teleport several times, which is a minor annoyance for this really awesome game. There are tons of hidden areas and weapons and items and power-ups to find, and you can actually level up because this game has RPG elements like stats. And you can unlock different forms for Alucard, like turning into mist or turning into a bat, which lets you access new parts of the castle. And the game is split up into two separate parts. You explore the castle, and then you explore the upside down version of the castle. I was playing in the first half of the game. I was having a great time just going around and exploring and killing enemies and fighting bosses and finding secrets and collecting items and weapons. And the climax of part 1 of this game is you have to fight Richter, the superpowered vampire hunter you played at the beginning. And this was actually kind of interesting because there are two ways to do the Richter fight. You can just kill Richter, and I don't know what happens if you go that route, because I'll admit, before taking this game on, I read some tips. See, Richter is being controlled by Shaft. That's his name. I don't know why. And if you get these pair of sunglasses, you'll see this green orb floating around Richter during your fight, and you have to hit the orb instead of Richter, which is a lot harder than it sounds because I swear that man has a death wish. He made it his goal in life to get between me and the orb. But eventually I managed. I destroyed the orb, I free Richter of his mind control, and that's when we reveal that the castle is on top of another castle that is the first castle but flipped upside down. And then I got to the second part of the game where you have to kill 5 bosses to get 5 body parts of Dracula before you can go fight him. And at first I thought that I was going to spend as much time in the second part of the game as the first part, exploring the castle because there's all new items and new weapons. And there's this piece of armor that actually gets stronger the more of the castle that you've explored, and can end up being the strongest armor in the game if you've explored the entire castle, which I totally planned on doing. And then I found the Chrysogrim, if I'm saying that name right. It's basically a weapon that attacks 4 times at once, and it makes combat completely pointless. I was taking down bosses in seconds. I killed death itself in just a few hits. In fact, the only enemy or boss that gave me any trouble after I got it was the Galamoth, I think. Basically this giant electric shooting skeleton thing with a staff. Fighting that thing was the only point in the second half of the game where I actually died. And to beat it, I had to do prep work, like making myself immune to lightning and increasing my strength with potions. But it is worth exploring to get all those power-ups that I talked about, and leveling up to increase your stats. And honestly, I was having so much fun with this game that if I didn't have a deadline to make this video, I would have kept playing. And I probably will go back and play it again, because apparently there's things that you can only get on your second playthrough. But you kill all the bosses, you collect all the Dracula body parts, and you go to face the man himself. But before you can take on the big man, you have to fight Shaft, the underling controlling Richter with the very unfortunate name. Not that it mattered, my sword at this point was tearing through everything, and so beating Shaft was easy. Really wish they had given him another name, these lines don't sound good. And the developers of this game had instructions to create the ultimate Dracula. No one really knew what that meant, because it wasn't really explained what that meant by ultimate Dracula. So they just made this multi-headed giant monster thing. And again, with my trusty I win sword, I just tanked Dracula, and I got through using only 2 healing potions. And that was it. Drac went down in about a minute, the castle crumbles, everybody lives happily ever after. So you've got a game that started on a dead console, whose most famous line was taken from a book, that the only design instruction for the final boss was be ultimate, and a developer that didn't even have any faith in its own game, but critics did. Once this game came out, it had high scores across the boards. Fans loved it. Symphony of the Night went on to sell over 700,000 copies because of critic reviews and word of mouth. Symphony of the Night is a great game that had everything working against it and every reason to fail, but fans and critics saved it. In fact, the only reason I even made this video is because for some reason, a lot of streamers I watch have been playing it recently, and when this one came out, I completely missed it. Now, it is a classic. It is a fan favorite, and if you've ever gotten your hands on this game, let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you next time.